I said, you're saying only Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Again, you're repeating Hare Krishna only instead of Hare Ram. By mistake, you were saying only the Hare Krishna Mama. Hare Krishna half.
Oh, I'm sorry. It happened that way, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Without
I'm
your
sorry.
knowledge, you were saying, so I corrected, Mother.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Radha Govinda Ji, Shri Gaur Nitai, Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. We'll start now. Thank you all Prabhujis, Matajis for joining this morning. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. To start with a few announcements. Today is a very, very special day, important day. Today is the appearance day of one of Srila Prabhupada's very dear disciple and one of his senior disciples, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So those of us who have read or heard earlier from Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrut, we would have some glimpse of Tamal Krishna Maharaj's immense contribution to the movement, ISKCON movement, especially preaching in places which were not accessible at all, very difficult to access during the time of Srila Prabhupada, like communist countries like China and all. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was instrumental. And whenever Prabhupada had any tough assignments, either in the Western countries or even in India, like for example, acquisition of the land for Mayapur temple in Mayapur, West Bengal, Srila Prabhupada would always entrust those type of responsibilities to his very capable, committed, and devoted dear disciples. So we are all eternally grateful to all these great souls, including the present living acharyas, as well as those devotees who have dedicated their lives and who are back home, back to Godhead, who are not in this material world anymore. So let's remember His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj on this very special occasion. And after Maharaj's departure from this world, it was also mentioned by many of Srila Prabhupada's senior students, disciples, that probably Prabhupada would have had some extraordinary assignment for him ready in some of the universes, because of which Prabhupada called back Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So that much faith Srila Prabhupada had in his dear disciple. So let's quickly recap through some of the important points from our last discussion, which was mainly about the Lord's entrance into Dwaraka and the grand reception that was offered by the Dwarkavasis, and even before the grand reception, how Lord announced his arrival through the blowing of the conch shell. And through some of these points about Lord's reception, how eagerly even the common man in general, there were no common people as such, all were extraordinary, pure souls, pure hearted souls in Dwaraka. But how, socially speaking, how even the most ordinary and common people within Dwaraka, they offered a very grand reception and how their lives, how much they were eager to receive the Lord back within them, within themselves. So we discussed the description of Lord blowing his conch shell, and specifically the description how the conch shell turned red because of the touch of the lotus lips of the Lord. And that touch is not like Lord applying some ointment, material ointment or a lipstick on his lips, but because his transcendental lips, they are described in the various compositions of the Vaishnava Acharyas and various scriptures, just like the bimba fruit, which is shown here. And since the conch shell comes in touch with the limbs, one of the limbs of the Lord, the lotus lips of the Lord, it also becomes radiant. It also becomes transcendental. And similarly, we discuss for a sadhaka bhakta, when we keep ourselves in connect, in regular touch with Krishna through the primary process of chanting his holy names and also associating with devotees, hearing about the Lord in the association of devotees, then we also can remain in a transcendental position to an extent, like to the degree we are intimately connected with the Lord through the process of devotional service, will be less connected with Maya and more connected transcendentally with the Lord. We also discussed about the specific feature of the Lord, that he is completely self-satisfied. He does not need any external means or wants to satisfy himself. He is Atmaram. But still, devotees make various offerings to the Lord, although he is completely self-satisfied, just out of their sheer love and affection for the Lord. And we gave various examples like worshipping Mother Ganges by offering a a small offering of her own water to Mother Ganges, or worshipping the sun. So we refer to all these different examples. We also discussed about the difference in the understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy as well as Vaishnava philosophy. How Vaishnavas do understand creation of this world, how Vaishnavas do understand administration of the Maya potency of the Lord by the Lord himself. We discussed few key verses. Different devotees quoted many wonderful verses from Bhagavad Gita to explain this point. And we also discussed about the concept of duality and non-duality, simultaneous duality and non-duality between the Lord and the living entities. Can anyone mention what was that specific word that we used to explain this simultaneous oneness and difference between the Lord and the living entities? Probably we request devotees who are not initiated to.
Achintya Veda.
Yes, Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. And what does it mean, Gunashri Mataji? Can you explain in one or two lines?
Prabhuji, it means that we are qualitatively one with the Lord, but not quantitatively, Prabhuji.
Quantitatively,
Similar,
correct.
like, yeah, there are many examples quoted with regards to this. Like, we are like the spark of the light, or the, like, God, like the gold mine example is also there, where we are just a part of Lord, but He is the whole out there.
Yes. So Lord Krishna is Vibhu and we are Anu. Lord Krishna is infinite, we are infinitesimal. So same as the Lord as far as qualities, original qualitative structure is concerned, but quantity wise, we are very minute. And then we also discussed about how we should follow the plan of the Lord. We discussed this secret that is explained by the Dwaraka Vasis, that if we want to be successful in our life, then we have to follow the plan of the Lord. And does anyone recollect what was the means that were discussed to follow the plan of the Lord? Any other devotees? You can maybe just mention that you want to answer, so all of us we know first. Don't answer directly. Any devotee wants to recollect, you can refer to the text, you can refer to your notes, or you can refer to the slides. I don't know whether, I think it is mentioned in the slides also. How does one follow the plan of the Lord to become successful in one's life? You can try, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, don't worry about even if you are wrong, even if you remember it 10%, 20%. Prema Priya Jayashree Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Go by his ideologies and we go by his ideologies only and be surrendered to him totally.
Okay, so go by his ideology. We discussed that a while ago, that we go by the plan of the Lord. Okay, true. And we surrender to him. Okay. Any other devotees? How do we surrender? We discuss one very specific point in reference to the previous chapters. How do we understand the plan of the Lord? Through whom? Adidev Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
By following the footsteps of his modified representatives.
Yes, very true. By following the footsteps of the Mahajanas, the great authorities, and specifically we gave reference to Bhishma Dev, persons like Bhishma Dev. When we follow them, then we know the plan of the Lord. Say, for example, in case of Yudhishthir Maharaj, apparently Lord arranged in such a way that convinced by the explanation given by Lord Krishna himself. So that was obviously the arrangement of the Lord. But Bhishma Dev, he was able to convince Maharaj Yudhishthir to explain that how whatever has happened because of the inconceivable will of the Lord. And now, in order to surrender himself to the will of the Lord, he should proceed as per the Lord's plan, which is to rule the kingdom based on the religious principles, based on dharma. So this is how, by taking guidance from the representatives of the Lord, by following the footsteps of the Mahajanas, we can follow the plan of the Lord, we can understand and follow. And then attractive influence of Lord's beauty. So I think this part we will just continue from here. Text 10, some of the highlighted portion. Any devotees have any questions, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, Hare Krishna, on what we discussed so far? All right, give me 1 minute. And my request in today's discussion, many of the purports are so wonderful, but it is not practically possible for us to cover them all. So wherever we are discussing the purport and wherever you see a symbol like this small box with 3 lines, you see, in case I don't go inside that box, just stop me there, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, because these are some of the references which I have mentioned, and though I'll try to remember my level best, I may forget sometimes. Yes. So this is where we concluded last time, where Srila Prabhupada mentions that Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that once somebody is attracted by him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. And this we discussed to explain the position of the Pandavas. Basically, because over the period of time, Lord Krishna, having stayed with them as one of their own family members, they were so much accustomed to eat with the Lord, to converse with the Lord on a daily basis, to speak with him, sleep with him, touch him on a daily basis. So it was intolerable for them even to consider being in separation from the Lord. So this is the effect. And we also discussed in earlier discussions about some of the other great devotees like the gopis. Some of the gopis, when they were stopped from leaving their homes to meet Lord Krishna in the dead of the night, when Lord Krishna called for them through playing his flute, they left their bodies, and the transcendental bodies of the gopis, they did go to meet Krishna. They left their material bodies. That means, externally speaking, they died. They left their bodies. So that is the nature of Lord's attraction. It's very, very powerful. And today also we'll see some of the examples of great devotees. So now we start with text 11. Again today, ideally I plan to complete the chapter. Let's see how much we can proceed. So some of the text we will recite and some of the text we will skip. So you can recite and go through them at your leisure. Yes, so we'll start with text 12. I have not recited text 11, which discusses the opulence and glories of Nagaloka, and has been previously explained by Namanishta Prabhuji as well, that every planet below Earth, it does not necessarily mean hellish planet. There are many opulent planets, even lower than Earth, including Nagaloka, Sutalaloka, and so on and so forth, where the opulence is probably higher than the earthly planet. So, planet below Earth doesn't necessarily mean the hellish planet. So, let's recite the text first. 1 second. Has the attendance link has been shared, so devotees can mark the attendance. Lalita Vinodini Mataji. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sarvartu Sarva Vibhava.
Sarva Vibhava.
Punyavriksha
पुण्यवृक्षलताश्रमैः
Udayanopavan Udayanopavanaramair.
उदयानोपवनारामैः
Ritapadmakarashriyam.
ऋतपद्माकरश्रियम्.
Translation.
Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The city of Dwarkapuri was filled with the opulences of all seasons. There were hermitages, orchards, flower gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water breeding lotus flowers all over. Should I read purpose?
Hang on, let me check. You can read the highlighted part.
The yellow one. Okay. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Advancement of civilization is estimated not on the growth of mills and factories to deteriorate the finer instincts of the human being, but on developing the potent spiritual instincts of human beings and giving them a chance to go back to Godhead. Shall I continue?
Yes, Mataji.
Development of factories and mills is called Ugra Karma, or pungent activities, and such activities deteriorate the finer sentiments of the human being and society to form a dungeon of demons.
Thank you, Mataji. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how the city of Dwarka was a big city and it was developed very, very systematically. Who had planned and designed this city, Prabhuji's Mataji's? City of Dwarka?
Vishwakarma Prabhuji.
Yes. So Krishna conceived it and moved all the residents of Mathura overnight. They went to bed in Mathura. When they got up, they were in Dwarka. But specifically, Vishwakarma, the architect, the lead architect of the Devatas, he specifically designed the city based on the will of the Lord. So it was so intricately designed in terms of having so many beautiful gardens, parks, at each nook and corner of the city. And there were also beautiful lakes which were filled with blooming lotus flowers. And Srila Prabhupada explains that true beauty of a particular town or city or village, whichever residential place we can consider, is in the natural beauty. And that natural beauty has to be used in turn to advance in one's spiritual life. Prabhupada explains very nicely in the purport that the modern leaders and the rich persons, when they plan their own residences, they will plan it in a very green area. Like in India, in many of the metros, that luxury is still not available, even for Ambanis and all. They can have a beautiful garden, but they have to have it on the terrace or a hanging garden. But if we look at the billionaires in the West, say US for example, many of their residences, they are like, nature's parks, huge one with green vegetation and everything. But when it comes to planning the cities for the ordinary people, such great people of the modern times, rich people and the leaders, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that they fill the cities with very tiny residential quarters for the common man, and most of the places in the cities are occupied by the factories and the mills. So first of all, they will build factories and the mills to propagate materialism, and they will engage the tendencies of the people in general to work in those factories and mills, and they will cause lot of ugra karma by such development. And such ugra karma, or Srila Prabhupada translates this into pungent activity, it just leads into deterioration of the tendency of the common man, which is naturally inclined towards serving the Lord. It becomes farther and farther, it goes farther and farther away from serving the Lord. Just arranging for food, clothing, and shelter itself consumes their entire energy. Like, I'll give a very practical example. And through these examples, we don't want to criticize anyone, but we want to see how this so-called development of the modern India, as envisaged by one of our ex-prime ministers, who called these industries as the temples of the modern India, how this is flawed based on the Vedic civilization. For example, even people who are highly educated, when they start working in these industries like factories and the mills, you imagine a schedule which is based on the shift rotation. That time, the person's whole body cycle of having food on time and sleeping on time, it gets disturbed to an extent that the person's other 16 hours of his day, they have to be accustomed or planned in a way just to keep those 8 working hours productive. That means the whole focus changes from working a job to support one's life. The focus changes to living one's life to support the job. Are all of you able to get it, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? That this is the result of the Ugra Karma development of this material civilization, materialistic society. That people, they tend to forget that the job or work is there in order to further our Krishna consciousness, in order to live a life where basic necessities are taken care, so that we can focus our attention on developing our Krishna consciousness. The focus shifts to how I can maintain myself in a livable condition, in a healthy condition, just so that I am able to focus on my work for 8.5, 9, or even sometimes 12, 14 hours. So this changes the, Srila Prabhupada mentions such activities deteriorate the finer sentiments of the human being and society to form a dungeon of demons. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, please proceed. Fruits, flowers.
Yes, Prabhuji. Fruits, flowers, beautiful gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water, with ducks and swans playing in the midst of lotus flowers, and cows giving sufficient milk and butter are essential for developing the finer tissues of the human body. As against this, the dungeons of mines, factories, and workshops develop demonic propensities in the working class. The vested interests flourish at the cost of the working class, and consequently, there are severe clashes between them in so many ways. The description of Dwaraka Dhama is the ideal of human civilization. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So this specific statement that Srila Prabhupada writes here, the vested interest flourish at the cost of working class. That means this type of civilizations where factories and the mills are promoted, definitely it does make a class of people very, very rich. And that simply increases the contrast, the difference in wealth distribution between the poor class versus the rich class, and it further causes clashes and basically conflicts in the society. It doesn't promote a wholesale development of the society, but favors one class and basically keeps the majority of the other working class in a very, very below acceptable conditions of living. So we proceed. 1 second. So this 13th verse, we will continue just with the translation. We will read the verse next after 2-3 verses. Let me see who are the other devotees. Sada Tushta Achyuta Prabhu. Vandita Mataji, I will ask you whenever there is a chance to recite the verse. Okay?
Hare
Okay,
Krishna,
okay,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. I want to read the verse, Prabhu.
Yeah, I will ask you. Hare Krishna.
So shall I recite, Prabhuji?
You can read the translation, Prabhuji. The CT.
Translation, okay. Okay. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The city gateway, the household doors and festooned arches along the roads were all nicely decorated with festive signs like plantain trees and mango leaves, all to welcome the Lord. Flags, garlands, and painted signs and slogans all combined to shade the sunshine. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. So just to confirm, Prabhuji's plantain trees means banana trees, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Plantain. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. That's right.
Okay.
In South India, we still use it in every festival, Prabhu, to decorate our doors.
Yes. Yes. And
mango leaves. And mango leaves also.
I do remember the food court in the first company I started the career, which was named Plantain Leaf. So they used to serve food on the plantain leaf section.
Yes.
Sadatushta Prabhu, continue, Prabhuji. The highways.
Yeah, the highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere.
Yes. So here, Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining the great detail which the residents of Dwaraka they went to in order to create a very auspicious atmosphere and express their eagerness in receiving the Lord. This part we discussed just a while ago, that the perfection of human civilization is in creating a setup which would further our spiritual inclinations to advance in our spiritual life and go back to Godhead. On the other hand, the materialistic civilization is something that focuses just on making one's living rather than focusing towards Krishna consciousness. So we go back, this purport we'll go through in detail. Yes, but this is a small purport, Sadatushta Prabhu, you can read through. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, purport by Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. Scented waters prepared by distilling flowers like rose and curra were requisitioned to wet the roads, streets, and lanes of Dwarka Dhama. Such places, along with the marketplace and public meeting places, were thoroughly cleansed. From the above description, it appears that the city of Dwarka Dhama was considerably big, containing many highways, streets, and public meeting places with parks, gardens, and reservoir of water, all very nicely decorated with flowers and fruits. And to welcome the Lord, such flowers and fruits with unbroken seeds of grain were also strewn over the public places. Unbroken seeds of grains or fruits in the seedling stage were considered auspicious, and they are still so used by the Hindus in general on festival days. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, the unbroken seeds, specifically like the sesame seeds and all, in many of our festivals, we still use them. And even in the auspicious ceremonies, like after marriage functions at home and all, these auspicious various types of seeds are used. So, Prabhuji, please continue, Sadatoshta Prabhuji. Then we discuss in detail some of the points from 15 per.
So translation purport, Prabhuji?
Yeah, translation.
Yeah. In each and every door of the residential houses, auspicious things like curd, unbroken fruits, sugarcane, and full water pots with articles of worship, incense, and candles were all displayed. Purport: the process of reception, according to Vedic rites, is not at all dry. The reception was made not simply by decorating the roads and streets as above mentioned, but by worshipping the Lord with requisite ingredients like incense, lamps, flowers, sweets, fruits, and other palatable eatables according to one's capacity.
Thank you. And we will now see the practical application of this for all of us. Just last part, Prabhuji, each and every.
Each and every house was ready to receive the Lord in a similar way, and thus each and every house on the roads and streets distributed such remnants of food to the citizens, and therefore the festival was successful. Without distribution of food, no function is complete, and that is the way of Vedic culture. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Srila Prabhupada is giving a very great details and insights into how the Vedic way of celebrating a festival is concerned. So very important point here is, first of all, the Lord is worshipped with all the decorative items and the paraphernalia, including offering of the incense, lamps, flowers, sweets, fruits. So, because all of us in this congregation, in this discussion, we are all householders. So that means we should also try to welcome the Lord in our home and worship the deity by offering all these types of paraphernalia and the details, including incense, sweets, flowers. And for the householders, it is important that we always keep some sweets, fruits that are offered to the Lord ready at home. That means any guest, and we will also see it in subsequent slides, any guest, any visitor comes to home, a householder should always be ready to serve prasadam. Not just that, you will be surprised to know that in Lilamrut it is mentioned. Prabhuji's Mataji's, are you hearing something in the background, song or something, or
No,
are you
No,
no.
Prabhu.
okay? Fine then, because there is some background sound here. Give me 1 minute, Prabhuji's Mataji's, 1 second. Hare Krishna, apologies. So Srila Prabhupada, to the temple residents, he specifically asked them to arrange in such a way that any visitor who comes to the temple, like first of all, when Prabhupada himself was managing the prasadam for the temple, Prabhupada always used to keep a whole small steel pip that was filled with gulab jamun, the sweet balls. And subsequently, when devotees started taking care of the prasadam arrangements, Srila Prabhupada specifically asked devotees to make sure that no visitor should leave the temple without honoring prasadam. And specifically, he used to ask devotees to keep like hot puris and very nice sabji like matar, aloo, whichever was uh, feasible for the devotees in a particular temple setup. They should always keep a very hot and fresh offered food, prasadam, ready for the visitors. And Prabhupada concludes the purport that without distribution of the food, no function is complete. And all of us, you would agree, at least I have seen from my childhood, whenever we used to visit temple, prasadam typically meant for us having a small portion of some offering on our hand. But when we started coming to ISKCON, we understood that here in the ISKCON institution, Prabhupada has established the concept of prasadam as a full-fledged prasadam distribution, including the full plate of prasadam. So, few examples I wanted to share, which are very inspiring, of various devotees who, materially speaking, they don't have too many means, okay, to offer a very nice reception and all. But still, through their examples, we can see that if one's sincerity is there, we can still arrange a very nice reception for the devotees, for the Lord, with the limited means. So few years back, probably around 13, 14 years back, there was an article in Marathi Back to Godhead magazine, which is our monthly magazine, bi-monthly, the international edition, but monthly when it comes to local India edition of ISKCON movement. So there was a very nice article about a family in Mumbai. And as you know, that Mumbai as such is a very congested place, and many people, they do live in a very, very humble situation. So one such devotee family who right now I don't know their situation, like if they have got a bigger place. But at that particular point in time, around 2010 and 12, they were living in a one-room apartment in Mumbai. But somehow, during one of their visits to Jagannath Puri to attend Jagannath Ratha Yatra, the family got attracted to bringing Jagannath to their home. And imagine a one-room apartment where like whole family, probably husband, wife, and one kid, and I think Prabhuji had his mother also living at that time. They all staying, they managing their living room, kitchen, everything. Even in that humble setup, they decided to welcome Lord Jagannath. And because of the mercy of the Lord, nothing was short. Like they got the deities, and every day they used to make huge offerings to Jagannath in terms of, keeping items like dry prashadam like chuda, offering laddus, making various nice foodstuffs, food items for Lord Jagannath and distribute them profusely to the devotees. So the point is, although the external circumstances were very humble from material point of view, because of the devotee's sincerity to welcome the Lord personally arranged for all the means where the devotee could receive the Lord in a grand manner and serve the Lord consistently. Secondly, it is also mentioned that whenever a guest is visiting our place, like we see from the examples from Mahabharata, even somebody who is a arch enemy, like Duryodhana receiving Arjuna, for example, during the battle of Kurukshetra, he was so welcoming to Arjuna that he even offered him that, do you want me to stop the war immediately, give you the kingdom? Let me know. That means Duryodhana was, from material point of view, was that much liberal and magnanimous in knowing the etiquette of receiving the guest, that even if his so-called enemy is visiting, because the enemy is visiting as a guest, it is my duty to receive him so that he won't even remember that I have come to an enemy's place. And it is also mentioned as per the Vedic etiquettes that if we let a guest go without offering them proper prasadam and all, then in a way it is like failure on the part of the host. It is not good. And we see so many examples even from the scriptures, like Pandavas receiving Durvasa Muni, where the circumstances were very trying. They hardly had anything even for themselves. They were all dependent totally on Krishna. But when it came to receiving Durvasa Muni, they gave their best, even to the level where Draupadi was in anxiety, Yudhishthir Maharaj was in anxiety, but they somehow or other managed the situation. And there is one more example. I don't know whether I mentioned it in the subsequent slide. Yeah, this is mentioned in the subsequent slide of Sri Ramanujacharya considering to visit two of his disciples, like either one of the two of his disciples in a specific town or a village, where one of the disciples, I forgot the name, it was Yadyagyar or something like that, who was a very rich merchant. And he was very happy to receive the news that Ramanujacharya would be coming. But he failed to properly honor the disciples of Ramanujacharya who had come to inform him of this news. And Ramanujacharya was not very impressed, because you may be very enthusiastic to receive the Guru Maharaj, but how attentively we are attending to the servants of Guru Maharaj, that is also very important. And then subsequently we see Ramanujacharya decided to visit without even informing his poor disciples Hatment, who the disciple's name was Varadachari and his wife was Lakshmi. This story we discussed in great detail earlier as well, Prabhuji. All of you remember this story? Ramanujacharya visiting the poor family of the disciple? Who can narrate if you remember, Prabhuji's Mataji's, very briefly? Anyone? All right, so we'll quickly recollect what was that story. So Varadacharya or Varadacharya, he was such a sincere disciple of Ramanujacharya, and even his wife, that husband-wife, they used to manage their living through Madhukari. They didn't have a proper job setup and all to sustain themselves. And when Ramanujacharya came to the hut, the wife, she was inside, but she couldn't come outside because she was not properly covered. Even the clothes, husband and wife, they used to share in a way that wife covers herself properly only when husband gives the outer cloth and something like that. They didn't even have proper cloth. So she was very shy to come out, and Ramanujacharya understood. And then he threw his upper garment for the lady to cover herself, and then she came outside. And she was very, very happy to see her Guru Maharaj visiting with all of his disciples, Ramanujacharya visiting with all the disciples. And because the couple was so poor, didn't have anything, husband was out to get madhukari. So the wife, she went to a merchant within that village who was a very lusty fellow, and who basically used to entice her earlier by offering wealth in return for his carnal desire. And the wife Lakshmi went to that merchant saying that, you want to enjoy me? Can you help me with one thing? My Guru Maharaj is visiting. If you could give me sufficient ingredients to cook a very nice feast for my Guru Maharaj and his disciples, then I promise that after my Guru Maharaj leaves, I will come to satisfy you. And the merchant was very surprised that all this while I have been trying unscrupulously to pollute this lady, but now she has agreed to my proposal. How is it possible? But somehow he gave the ingredients very happily. And Lakshmi came. She cooked a very nice feast for Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. And subsequently, husband came home, and he was very happy to see his Guru Maharaj and all the devotees honoring Prasadam. And afterwards, he asked his wife that how did you manage to arrange all such a nice feast? And she explained the whole thing. And the husband glorified the wife, saying that you are the most chaste of all women, because you have committed to even give your own chastity to make sure that devotees are properly taken care and the spiritual master is properly received. And when Ramanujacharya heard this conversation and came to know how Lakshmi had arranged for this feast, he requested Lakshmi to take his remnants of his prasadam and give it to that merchant. And by honoring the remnants of the foodstuffs, the Mahaprasadam of Sri Ramanujacharya, the heart of the merchant got completely transformed, and he fell flat at the feet of that lady, begging forgiveness. And he accepted Ramanujacharya also as the spiritual authority. So, coming back to the point that even if one is in a very humble circumstance, like we saw in the example of this family staying in a one room apartment, or even this example of Varadachari and his wife Lakshmi, still it is the duty of the household to properly receive the guests and not let them leave without properly honoring them by distribution of prasada. And that also means that each and every household holder should always keep prasadam ready in their house to be distributed. It should never happen that guest has come but there is nothing available. Any questions, comments, Prabhujis, Matajis on this particular point of Vedic way to receive the guest? What mood we should receive the guest? Adidev Gopesh Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
As when you mentioned this, I got reminded of Ramakrishna Prabhuji's in one of his class. We had heard Srila Prabhupada's letter in which Srila Prabhupada ordered all the temples to keep like prasadam ready. Like he said, mentioned in that letter that if anyone like if any devotee, any gentleman comes, there should be enough prasadam to feed them, and like they should no. And Prabhupada mentioned that letter that no one should go from the temple without ordering prasadam.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing this.
Hare
So
Krishna.
Prabhupada gave various instructions to devotees to serve not just a small prasadam like fruit and all, but he asked devotees to make elaborate arrangements, like at least they should get puri, sabji, and so on. So they should have their stomach full, all the visitors. Second important point in receiving a guest from the Vedic point of view is it is explained that even if one does not have the means to receive a guest in a very opulent, pompous manner, at least bare minimum one can do is receive them with sweet words, give them a nice clean place to sit, offer them water. That is possible for each and everyone. But if our means allow, we should give proper prasadam. And specifically about keeping the house very clean to receive the guest, that is also mentioned as one of the etiquette. And in general, as you know, in ISKCON movement, Srila Prabhupada himself, he gave so much importance for devotees to keep everything spick and span very clean. He mentioned that cleanliness is next to godliness. That means we should always keep our whatever house or settlement we have by Krishna's grace, we should keep it very spick and span in service to Lord Krishna. Specifically, there are many experiences by many of our devotees who are engaged in guest reception service, say for senior ISKCON brahmacharis or specifically sannyasis, that devotees are give great detail even to keep especially even the washrooms and all very clean. So specifically this devotee from Pune uh, temple, he was mentioning that how he had this responsibility one time given to him to receive His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj in one of the householders or temple setup, I don't recollect, but to receive Giriraj Maharaj in that place and make sure that that place is very properly set up and all cleaned. And Prabhuji went to great detail in cleaning everything, and especially knowing that Maharaj would check for washroom, that if the toilet is not clean, then basically it is mentioned that the washroom reflects our own consciousness. If we keep whole house clean, but the washroom is dirty and unclean, it means that our consciousness is also, it needs to be cleaned properly to that extent. So the devotee meticulously cleaned everything, including the washroom and all. And when Maharaj visited the place, he saw that everything was spick and span, nicely clean. And Maharaj basically acknowledged that who has cleaned this so nicely. And the devotee mentioned that thank you Maharaj, I have cleaned. And then the home in the western countries, they don't have the just the curtains, but they do have those flaps. What are they called, Prabhujis, which we can open or close? What are they called? I know, but I forgot. The flaps on the windows, to make sure that from outside it is the inside view is visible. So Maharaj, Prem Prakash Prabhu, you recollect what is it called?
Sheer curtains
Sheer curtains. They are not curtains.
or blinds.
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 Blinds,
Blinds.
blinds.
What is
Yeah.
the question?
Yeah. So the question is, what are those flaps called which are used
It
instead
is
of
called
curtains?
Venetian blinds.
Venetian blinds.
Blinds. Yes, Prabhuji.
Venetian blinds.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So that blinds, the devotee was from India and he was not too much used to using that either in the temple or a home. So by mistake, that part was totally got missed out from the devotee. And Maharaj, as soon as he came, he opened the blinds so that the bright sunlight would come inside. And as soon as the blinds were opened, Maharaj saw a layer of dust on the blinds, and the devotee was feeling so awkward. And Maharaj, what did he do? He pushed his fingers all the way through one blind and saw the layer of dust that had accumulated. And he said, but this is still dirty. And the devotee basically took it as a gesture by Maharaj to keep him humble. And devotee said, yes, Maharaj, my apologies. I missed cleaning that part. I will clean it now. So the point is, one of the very important aspect of guest reception we discussed is receiving them with sweet words, with water, sitting place, and prasadam, proper prasadam, and also keeping our house always clean so that it is very nice and ready to receive the guest. Also, one point I remembered, in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are total 26 or 27 around that hellish, different hellish planets are mentioned, hellish conditions, where people who commit different types of wrong deeds, sinful activities, they need to go and visit and suffer. And one of the hells that I remember reading from fifth canto is also for those hosts who are not very welcoming to the atithis, to the guests who visit without even informing. and they look at those guest atithis in a with a very sharp, they give a very sharp glance toward those guests, that why did this person come unannounced, that he should have informed me in advance. To such unwelcoming host, it is explained that there is also one hell that is reserved by Yamaraj, and there are sharp big birds like hawks and so on and so forth, who pluck out the eyes of such people who give a very angry or upset glance to the unannounced guest. So the point is, this is not just a Vedic custom, even this is a basic, what you can say, a basic etiquette for any person in general, what to speak of devotees. Any devotees would like to add anything on this, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna. We have still quite few verses to cover, but this is an important aspect. Venetian blinds, yes. All right, so let's proceed. So the crux of this particular section is that the advancement of civilization, it depends on, can anyone fill in the blank? What does it depend on, advancement of civilization? We don't want exact words, but at least the message, what Srila Prabhupada conveys. You can refer to the purport if needed. And the science of guest reception we saw in great detail with various examples from lives of great devotees. Anyone wants to answer? First point, what does advancement of civilization depend on? Quickly.
Utilizing the gifts of nature.
Yes. So Prabhupada starts the purport with that statement, Mataji, what you just mentioned, utilizing the gifts of nature. He uses a different word, not advancement. But subsequent part of the purport, he mentions advancement of civilization depends on how we promote the inclination of people to advance, grow in their spiritual life, and ultimately go back to Godhead. So that civilization, which furthers this inclination of common people, that can be considered as advanced one. If that does not promote that, then it cannot be considered as advanced one.
It's said as perfection of human civilization.
Yeah, can you read that part, Prem Prakash Projit?
Perfection of human civilization is made possible by utilizing the gift of nature in the way in its own way.
Yeah, and then later part of the purport where Srila Prabhupada mentions about inclination for spiritual life and going back to Godhead for the common man. Same purport.
The propensity to utilize nature's own gift is still there, even in the heart of modern civilized man.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it is given as developing the potent spiritual instinct of human beings and giving them a chance to go back to Godhead, Prabhu.
Yes. So that civilization is to be considered an advanced civilization, which gives these facilities. So let's proceed. So now we come to a very important part of the next section, Lord Krishna's reciprocation with people from different backgrounds, different births, occupations. So I have not given the verse number here, surprising. One second. Yeah, so subsequent verse does mention that different persons in relation to Krishna, including his father, Vasudev, grandfather, Ugrasen, sons like Samba, Pradyumna, and all, and grand Ugrasen, yeah, we mentioned, brother Balaram, and his chief commander, Akrura, and all of they came to receive the Lord. They were extremely happy. This you can go through. So the purport mentions the significance of all these different personalities, who they are, what were their significant deeds. Then we go to the next. Yeah, this is an important one. So Vandita Tungavidya Mataji, you can recite the text in proper meter. One second.
Text
Text 18:18. 18:18.
18. Okay. Varanendram puraskrutya
Varanendram puraskrutya
brahmanaihi sasumangalaihi
brahmanai
Sumangalaihi
Shankhaturya ninadena
Shankhaturyaninadena
Brahma ghoshena chadrutaha
Brahmaghosena chadritaha
Pratyujjagmo radhai hurubhtaha
Pratyujjagmurathaihrishtaha
Pranayagata sadhasaha
Pranayagata sadhvasaha.
One second. Yeah,
Thank you.
translation. You want to read through translation?
Yes, Prabhuji.
They hasten.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Vedic way of receiving a great personality creates an atmosphere. Okay, na Prabhuji?
Yeah, okay, fine. Go ahead.
Atmosphere of respect, which is saturated with affection and veneration for the person received.
Thank you. Such a program of reception is full of sincerity on the part of both the receiver and the received. Actually, the verse I wanted to recite was text 19 because that's where we are going to go into the purport in detail. So apologies, one second. Who is the next devotee who will be reciting? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, anybody wants to recite? Geeta Pradeep Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Varamukhyaścha Shatasho
Varamukhyaścha
Yaneistad Darshanotsukaha
Yaneistad-darshanotsukaha
Lasat Kundala Nirbhatha
Lasat-kundala nirbhata
Kapola Shriyaha
Kapolo Vadanashriyaha.
Translation 19. At the same time.
Translation. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads.
Thank you, and you can just read the highlighted part first.
Yeah. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even today, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains in great detail many important aspects of this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. First aspect is the bhakti, the process of bhakti is not Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. Those who are co-host, can you please check Prabhuji's if there is any background sound? So the process of bhakti is not prohibiting person from any background, from any birth, any occupation to take up devotional service. So all are welcome. And here specifically we see the description of the prostitutes is mentioned. So one aspect is that although they were in that particular profession because of some circumstances, specific circumstances, they were not barred from accessing the Lord. They were that much eager because of their attraction and affection towards the Lord. And then Geeta Mataji, please continue. The idea is that
There is a class of men who will drink at any cost, and it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encourage illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions. And if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. It is better to maintain a class of prostitutes than to encourage prostitutes within the society. The real reformation is to enlighten all people to become devotees of the Lord, and that will check all kinds of deteriorating factors of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Prabhupada is explaining that giving a sort of license or concession doesn't mean encouraging that. Like he specifically gives the example, which is very true even in our modern day India, that there are states, and we don't want to name them, which are called dry states. That means apparently as per the government policy, liquor or alcohol is not permitted to be sold or to be consumed. But these are the states where the black marketing of the liquor, it happens in a maximum way. Because the government doesn't allow it through the legal way, people try to access it anyway through the black market, through the unscrupulous means, but they still have access. Similarly, Prabhupada is saying that this particular profession, it existed even 5,000 years back at the time of Lord Krishna. One important point between our understanding of this particular profession, prostitution, in modern day and times versus what scriptures refer to it as is slightly different. Scriptures basically refer to this particular class of artist or whatever you call as one who used to entertain the kings and the other kshatriya class and in general and all that. So they were more, it was not exactly a flesh trade which the modern prostitution refers to. It was a group of the society girls. Society girls was the right word that was being used in most of the translations. Prostitution is not the word. So society girls, that means they were responsible for dancing in front of the king and all in order to entertain them. And in that particular categorization, if we consider there are many celebrities class of the modern times, and we don't want to name that class, but they also fall into this particular category of being a professional entertainer. At that time, they were the entertainers of the leading men in the society, including the Kshatriyas mainly. But nowadays, these entertainers, they have become celebrities and who entertain a major part of the society through their presenting of their acting skills and artistic skills and so on and so forth. So that particular class of people whose main profession was entertaining the Kshatriyas, they were called as prostitutes. Of course, we cannot use that word, otherwise people will get offended in the modern day and times, but that was the understanding of the prostitution. And Srila Prabhupada gives in detail the wonderful story of one of the great Vaishnava Acharyas, Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur. So we won't read this, but we will discuss that how Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur, who composed great poems, songs on Lord Krishna, like Krishna Karnamrit, for example. And he was one of the great acharyas whose songs were relished even by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of such caliber. But in his earlier life, before he became such great acharya, such a devotee, servant of the Lord, Bilwa Mangal Thakur in his household life was very attracted to a prostitute lady named Chintamani. And it is also explained in different commentaries and books that his spiritual master from the earlier life, he himself appeared in the form of this Chintamani society girl. And one time, Bilwa Mangal Thakur, in the dead of the night, he was so much inclined to visit this prostitute that it was raining, it was pouring very heavily, and the river was flooded. And he basically swam across the river. He caught hold of a one wooden log, thinking that it is wooden log, but it was a dead body floating on the river. And then he crossed the river somehow. And then he caught hold of a rope to climb, because after banging on the door for very long, the prostitute was not opening the door. So to go to the upper floor where the prostitute was best, he climbed using a rope, but that rope was a snake and he didn't even recognize. And then finally, the window glass was broken, and by the time he could go inside, all his body was like greatly injured and blood oozing and all that. And seeing that condition of Bilwa Mangal Thakur, seeing his eagerness to meet her, the prostitute exclaimed to Bilwa Mangal Thakur that just if the attraction and eagerness that you have to meet me, if you would have had that attraction and eagerness to attend the Supreme Lord, your life would have been completely transformed as a pure devotee by now. And these words by Chintamani, who was actually his spiritual master from the previous life, completely stunned Bilwa Mangal Thakur and transformed his heart to the extent that he completely gave up the materialistic way of life. And he did that in a very specific circumstances, which we'll discuss some other time. But he subsequently became blind and became a great devotee of Lord Krishna, to the extent that Krishna used to personally reciprocate with Bilwa Mangal Thakur during his stay in Vrindavan. There are many narrations of that. So the point is, no profession or no person from a specific class or occupation is barred from taking up to devotional service. Everybody is welcome with all respect and honor. As anybody recollects, what was the prostitute's name, the society girl's name in Mathura, who was attracted to Krishna? What was her name? Anybody recollects? Actually, she was the servant of Kamsa. Kubja, yeah. So although initially she had a deformed body, but later on, by the mercy of Krishna, she got a very beautiful form, and she desired to enjoy Krishna, and Krishna did fulfill that. So the point is, ena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayat. So even this class of prostitutes, they were very affectionate towards Lord Krishna, and they came to welcome him. And last part, Gita Mataji, please read through this. Therefore,
the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord, and thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. On the other hand, those who are non-devotees have no good qualifications whatsoever, however they may be materially advanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So Prabhupada is saying that don't try to suppress that class. They also need to live. But what we do is educate people so that they don't turn to that type of entertainment, third class entertainment. They will be happy in devotional service to the Lord. That is the best way to handle the social fabric, not by suppressing the other class. And this particular part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is referring to one particular verse. Anybody recollects, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? That just by taking up to devotional service, all good qualities of the Devatas will come. And on the other hand, for the non-devotees, no good qualifications can come. What is that verse? You can try, even if you tell the translation, we can search it online. Anybody remembers what is that verse?
110, 11.
Recite the verse, Prabhuji, then I would know. Yeah, so Sadatushta Prabhu, I saw your question. We'll discuss that after this verse. This is an important question. Okay. So that verse that I am referring to, Prabhuji, is this: Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. So where it is mentioned that for a devotee, all good qualities of the Devatas, they automatically manifest in such a devotee who takes to devotional service. Whereas for a non-devotee, he cannot have any good qualities as such. So we don't have to try to get good qualities separately. As long as we become sincere in our devotional service, our own near and dear ones, including parents, spouse, children, and all, they will themselves recognize that, oh, because this person has now taken up to devotional service, he has become a reformed person. He is not like what he was earlier. So there is a very relevant question by Sadatushta Prabhuji on the chat, that similar to what is mentioned about prostitution, where based on the scriptures, that class of people also had a place in the society and they could live a dignified life. What about other people who break other forms of regulatory principles like meat eating, intoxication? Should it be allowed as well? So Prabhupada mentions the Vedic. See, what we are against, let me tell you very frankly, what Vedic culture is against, that those who are fallen, who don't want to give up that way of consuming non-vegetarian food, Vedic scriptures are okay to give them space and let them take their own time to come to the level of bhakti. But what Vedic culture is against is maintaining a organized form of animal killing that Vedic culture does not support. Say, for example, the modern day slaughterhouses. Maybe in India, it is not openly clear, but if you find the search the facts, you will know that even government needs to maintain, because of their social obligations and all, government owned slaughterhouses are also there in India as well. And what to speak of foreign countries where they are umpteen in number. So that is what the Vedic culture is against, that we cannot have a organized way where the state government itself is sponsoring or supporting directly or indirectly organized slaughter of the animals. That is not what Vedic culture supports. Vedic culture means that if somebody can't resist the senses and the temptation, then go kill yourself and consume. But don't organize it as a nicely packaged foodstuff in a supermarket. Is that all right, Sadatushta Prabhuji?
Yeah, Prabhu, what I wanted to understand is now with this purport as an excuse, people who are in the profession of selling meat or selling alcohol, they can always say that there are people in the society, they need this. So I am in that profession to serve them. So,
but along with that, scripture specifically for meat eating, it does mention who all become part of the sinful reactions, including the person who is killing, the person who is facilitating, the person who is acting as a middleman. Even if they don't consume themselves, still they have to partake. So are they ready? Then they have to be aware as well.
yeah, yeah, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Prem Prakash Haridas Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it was the same thing. I think there are 6 kind of people who are responsible as a murderer when the meat eating is done. Starting from person who gives a permission to kill the animal.
Yes.
As you very rightly say. I just the same point.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That means the government had authority directly, indirectly. If the government is supportive of the organized slaughterhouse, they would also be bearing the karma, which is a very, very serious thing. We have to be careful about this. So let us proceed. We'll just see some of these translations. So next, some few verses, they explain how various types of artists and even the prostitute class is also considered as a part of this society. Like expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions, being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus, they proceeded on and on. That means all these persons, they were also contributing to spreading Krishna consciousness by using their own talent, using their own skills. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how some of these performers, wherever the question comes of entertaining other class of people, that being the profession, based on the Vedic understanding, it is form of the Shudra community. And as I mentioned, a major part of the celebrities in the acting industry in the modern times falls under this category based on this description, because they are meant to entertain based on their profession. So some part we will read here. Dancers, singers, and dramatic artists mostly hailed from the Shudra community, whereas the learned historians, genealogists, and public speakers hailed from the Brahmana community. All of them belonged to a particular caste and they became so trained in their respective families. Such dramatists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and public speakers would dwell on the subject of Lord's superhuman activities in different ages and millenniums, and not on ordinary events, nor were they in chronological order. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that all of these artists, their performances were more or less focused always on describing Lord's pastimes. And then subsequently, Prabhupada mentions that why, even in ISKCON as a society, encouraging all these artistic skills, especially drama, dance, of course, in service to Lord Krishna, is very, very important. And as part of the note which I have mentioned here, basically in ISKCON, there is a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, maybe I mentioned it in the next one. His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj, who is BBC for Canada and who is based out of ISKCON Toronto Temple. Maharaj is very fond of writing Krishna conscious dramas and setting up dramas based on various pastimes of the Lord. So, like different disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they have taken forth various moods of Srila Prabhupada, like His Holiness Jai Pataka Swami Maharaj. What is the mood of Maharaj? Who can explain? Which specific aspect of Srila Prabhupada's personality has Jai Pataka Swami Maharaj taken up in his own life? Who can say? Dhanya Dameshwari Mataji.
I'm guessing, Prabhu, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, you should know. So you have taken.
Yeah.
We should know the mood of our spiritual master. What is it propagated?
It is giving shelter, Prabhu. So
Congregational development, right? The whole Bhakti Vraksha Namahatta concept. Namahatta is the word from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time. It was Jayapataka Swami Maharaj who has spread hundreds and thousands of Bhakti Vrakshas and Namahattas even in the difficult to preach places like Middle East and so on and so forth. So congregational development is the mood of Srila Prabhupada. That aspect of the mood Maharaj has taken forward. Similarly, Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj's example that I mentioned, he has taken forward the mood of promoting the culture of artistic culture of having Krishna conscious dramas on different pastimes of the Lord. So Prabhupada mentioned that this is also an important aspect of society development, that we encourage these arts, but they should be centered around service to Lord Krishna, not in any materialistic manner. And what was the note? Yeah. Even 100 years ago in India, all dramatic performances were centered around the superhuman activities of the Supreme Lord. In this regard, during one of the Vrindavan Yatras, I don't know why this is not opening. During one of the Vrindavan Yatras, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Dinabandhu Prabhu, he mentioned that there is one village in the Brajavandal Parikrama where the residents every single day, after their day's work, they come together to discuss pastimes of Lord Krishna. And surprisingly, they discuss only one particular pastime, and they are still never tired of that discussing that pastime. And that pastime is the Govardhan Leela. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the descriptions of the pastimes of the Lord is not like the materialistic narrations, which become stale and which become tasteless after a point in time. But the descriptions about the pastimes of the Lord are ever fresh. And that's why we should always encourage this type of art, different art performance. Yeah, this is the example of Bhakti Marga Maharaj. And there are also various temple communities in our movement, like ISKCON Chopati, for example. They have their annual drama festival where devotees from congregation, they come together to set up a very nicely orchestrated, very nicely practiced with proper costumes and everything, the drama festival as a offering for all the devotees. So this is very important to cultivate as well. Now, let me see if we can move to the last part of today's discussion. So this we saw dealing of Lord Krishna with various ladies, including the prostitutes coming forth to honor receive the Lord, and also similar to the descriptions of the ladies of Hastinapur, how they were reciprocating with their feeling with reciprocating their feelings with the Lord. What was the way we discussed last chapter? Other devotees who have not spoken can try. Let me request Devika Mataji, Divya Rukmini Mataji. You want to try? How did the ladies of Hastinapur they reciprocate with the Lord when he was leaving Hastinapur?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, yes, Mataji.
We're discussing about the pastime of the Lord and
Yeah.
of
So
the
by hearing about the pastimes of the Lord, they developed their affection, and they were expressing that affection by showering flowers from the roof of the terraces. They were not coming front to like person to person in front of the Lord. They were in their private quarters, but they were showering flowers from the rooftops. Similarly, many resident women of Dwarka, they were also following that required separation and still expressing their affection in terms of praising the Lord and receiving Him in their heart while standing on the rooftops. Spiritual versus material beauty. Now we come to the last part. Okay, you might feel that are we rushing? Some of these verses, all of you can go through Prabhuji's Mataji's. They describe the beautiful form, feature, and the limbs of the Lord in the subsequent verses, and how Lord reciprocated with all these different types of classes of people who approach Krishna to welcome him. Even these prostitutes, Lord Krishna did acknowledge them and honor them, accepted their reception basically. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances and awarding benedictions even to the lowest in rank. So this only Krishna can do. 1 second, let me see if we missed any point. Yes. So there is a very nice example mentioned in Leelamrut about one time Srila Prabhupada. And this is also another aspect we can see in Srila Prabhupada's life, that devotees used to go to such great extent, even driving 5-6 hours in Western countries, going to whichever nearby temple where Srila Prabhupada would be visiting. And they used to make grand arrangements, sometimes spending weeks and months together to prepare for Srila Prabhupada's reception. So one time it so happened that Prabhupada was to visit one particular temple in the West. I forgot the name of the place. But where devotees from West Virginia, which is called New Vrindavan, they also they drove for almost 6-7 hours to reach to that place. And somehow that time ISKCON was not as well established as an institution. So the material means in terms of Lakshmi and all, they were very meager. So devotees, they did not get a proper flowers or garlands to offer to Srila Prabhupada. So what did they do? They stopped on the highway side, and they devotees plucked flowers which were available on the roadside. Imagine the wildflowers, and they quickly made a garland out of it using the thread. And imagine it won't be that fancy of a garland of fragrant flowers that we see and all that. So what happened after Srila Prabhupada came to this temple? The devotees who were visiting from West Virginia, when they saw that Prabhupada was being offered so nice and opulent garlands, which were offered earlier to the deities and all, they did not feel like offering that humble offering that humble garland which devotees had made using the wildflowers to Srila Prabhupada. They thought that it would be very not fitting at all in front of these beautiful garlands that Srila Prabhupada is wearing. But Srila Prabhupada, as Lord Krishna, even the pure devotee of the Lord, by the empowerment given by the Lord, he understands what he needs to understand. And immediately he called for the devotee who was basically hiding at the back the garland that was made from the wildflowers. And Srila Prabhupada asked the devotee to put that garland upon him. And one by one, as Srila Prabhupada walked through the devotees, Srila Prabhupada handed over each and every garland that he was wearing to different devotees, except for that particular garland of wildflowers. Prabhupada kept that one garland, which was very odd looking, like you would see thread in between the two flowers. You would see the flowers which were wildflowers, not very fragrant and all. But Srila Prabhupada accepted the love and affection of the devotees. Similarly, what happened is devotees in the temple had planned that few devotees were standing with the flower petals on the first floor of the temple. As soon as Srila Prabhupada would enter the temple hall, the plan was for devotees to shower those flower petals on Prabhupada. As soon as the sound of door opens, the sound is there of the door opening, and Prabhupada would walk in. So what happened? One particular lady, a devotee, Mataji, she was carrying a young child. And because of the rush that was there of devotees, Prabhupada first asked to let her go so that she is not inconvenienced and the child is not inconvenienced. As soon as the door opened, this lady entered with the young child. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, please help with the background sound, please. Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, otherwise it disturbs the flow.
Prabhu, I am not co-host.
Okay. And other devotees also. So as soon as the door opened, some of the devotees thought that it is Prabhupada who is entering, and they immediately showered all the flower petals they had kept. But it was the devotee Mataji carrying the young child. And somehow she was feeling so awkward that the honor and the grand reception that was actually meant for Srila Prabhupada, by mistake, the devotees have showered the flower petals. And although she was feeling it very awkward, Srila Prabhupada was laughing like anything, meaning he had accepted the grand reception and the affection of the devotees even without flower petals being showered on him. So the point is, either the Lord or the pure devotee of the Lord, both are able to reciprocate with even the most neglected lot, or even somebody who is much behind, who is not in prominence at all, but Lord does not forget to attend to them or does not forget to notice them. And similarly, Srila Prabhupada also did not forget to attend to such devotees. Is there anybody would like to add anything, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this particular point of how Krishna is always very attentive even to the most insignificant servant, provided that person is very sincere? Anyone wants to add anything, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this before we move to the last part of today's discussion? So you can go through these verses now as a group exercise. We go to the last part of this particular chapter, which is Krishna's dealings with the queens of Dwaraka. So we would form breakout rooms and take about 15 minutes to scan through these purports, and we probably have 3 groups, each group giving explanation, their understanding of how the relationship between Krishna and the queens of Dwaraka, who he used to deal in a very, very peculiar manner. Krishna book explains that Krishna used to deal with the queens just like a hen-pecked husband. That means keeping them very happy, keeping them very satisfied, and showing a very important lesson for the householders, how we should lead our family. How that relationship between Krishna and the queens of Dwaraka, it was on a transcendental platform and it was not immoral. So let me put it on the chat. Is the ask clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Have all of us gotten a chance earlier? I'm not sure whether devotees have gotten a chance to read through this earlier, but even if you haven't, we will give some time to go through. Any question on that? Ask Prabhuji's, Mataji's before we start the breakout rooms. Can we start? Yes, no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine.
But it can be if you're depending on how many groups you're that is you are going to divide. I think if you segregate the slokas also, Prabhu, that will be helping.
I'm fine. Okay, fine. Let me just think. Okay, let's do one thing. There are total, say, 10 verses. Let's divide into 3, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll make 3 groups. First group takes first 3 verses 30 to 32. Second group takes 33 to 35, and third group takes 36 to 39. Is that all right? Okay, and come up with the point highlighting aspects of Lord Krishna's dealings with the queens. What was special? What we can learn from it? Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's Mataji's apologies. I was in breakout room 3 discussing few points with the devotees. They should also be joining shortly now. Was it very tough, Prabhuji's Mataji's, to go through these verses? If you want, we can cover it as part of the slides discussion as well. I don't know, because the purports are a bit long. If it was too much of a rush, we will cover them at the beginning of our next session after this. Okay, I'll take all of your views if we can, if you want this to be covered properly. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's Mataji's, one common question. This last section of this particular chapter, which deals with, first it deals with Lord Krishna, the description of Lord Krishna's form, his limbs, etc. Followed by the 10 verses on Lord Krishna's dealings with the queens. Was this time sufficient, or you want, in addition to this to be also covered as part of the next session? Because I don't know whether you got enough time to go through the purports. Yes.
Prabhuji, I was fortunate I had read it earlier, and
Okay.
so we could make the points out of 30, 31, and 32.
Okay, okay. How about other devotees?
I think time must not be enough.
Okay, okay, fine. So we'll cover this as part of our next discussion. Let's go ahead with the presentation by the three groups now. So we will start with first group of devotees who will be presenting.
Mataji, who is presenting?
Prabhuji, you start. I will also support Prabhuji. I think.
Okay. Prabhuji, in the verses 30, 31, and 32, we realize that verse number 30 and 32 are the subverses. The main verse is verse number 31, which has several points. Verse number 30 describes that there are 16,108 wives of Sri Krishna, and each of them are living separately, and each wife has Krishna as a separate husband. Going further to the verse number 31, it describes that all these wives of Lord Krishna, they are simultaneously and separately present. The absolute is one alone, and yet he becomes many as soon as he so desires. So Krishna is though only one, he actually becomes separate the moment he desires that. The separated portions are representation of his energy, and the plenary portion are the manifestations of his personality. 16,108 plenary expansions are seen. These are known as Vaibhavas, or the transcendental potency of the Lord. The potency and the potent, they are not the same, they are different, and no one therefore is equal, or either equal or greater than the Lord himself. Thus the God is a great. And then it goes further, telling about restrictions of a woman when the husband is absent, and this includes 4 or 5 points. A woman whose husband is away from the home should not take part in any social function, should not decorate the body, should not laugh, and should not go to any relative's house in any circumstances. They can never be separated from the Lord, that is the queens, either by their presence or by the trance. Now the next point that is described here is all the queens, when the husband is absent, remain in trance, and they are physically present, both physically and with the mental attitude, only when Lord Krishna is around. The last verse of 32 number describes about the embraces the Lord Krishna has with his queens. These embraces are quite different. The embraces are different between son and a mother, or between wife and a husband. And thus it has 2 points, the sexual point of view and the affectionate point of view. Both of them are present between the embraces of the Lord Krishna and his
Queens.
15,108 wives. Sorry, Prabhu, it's been little long.
No worries, but just one particular point.
Long.
All these restrictions that the queens used to follow that you mentioned, they were because of their separation. So they are not obligations, but they were out of their natural affection towards the Lord. They were in complete separation. Thank you, Prabhuji. So just in the interest of time, shall we proceed to group 2? You want to add something, Dhanya Dameshwari Mataji? If not,
Prabhuji, yeah, in the 30th sloka, as Prabhu was mentioning, so that the quality defines his Lord is unlimited, and that is Sarvakama. Even his desires are unlimited. So that one point I would like to insist on that. So he is highest of all the 6 opulences, still is unlimited. So that one I would like to add, Prabhu. So
thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So at the end of this discussion, I would ask you, what is your one-line conclusion? So just think at the back of your mind. Okay, this is what we want to bring out of this discussion. What is your conclusion? Reading all this, understanding all this. Okay, so we'll go with group 2 and group 3. Who will be the devotees from group 2 who will be presenting?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I will be presenting group 2.
Okay.
And anyone else who would like to add, please add. Hare Krishna. So, according to Shloka 33, it says in Brahma Samhita, the Lord is served very respectfully by hundreds and thousands of goddess of fortune. They are always serving him in a lonely place, and they are with the Lord. Even though they are serving him continuously, still the association of Lord is so inspiringly newer and newer that they cannot quit the Lord even for a moment. And even though by nature, goddess of fortune is very restless and is always moving about. The spiritual relationship with Lord is so enlivening and resourceful that no one can leave the company of the Lord once having taken shelter of him. So the main point here is the highest perfection of human life is to seek some employment under the Lord's supreme service.
Yes, some engagement. Yes, Mataji.
And Shloka 34 didn't have anything specific to Krishna and his wives. And in Shloka 35, we know that Krishna married 16,108 wives, and he lived with them separately in each and every palace, like a householder. But we should also know that these women who were the wives of Lord Krishna were not ordinary women. They got him as a husband after millions of births of tapasya. And Krishna displays his transcendental pastimes just to attract conditioned souls to become his eternal servitors, like either friends, parents, lovers, etc., in the transcendental world. So such relationships cannot help us to be happy perpetually, but if the same relationship, like if you take the relationship in a mundane world, like wife, lover, or something, it will not make us happy perpetually. But if we have the same relationship established with Krishna, then we are transferred to the transcendental world after leaving this material world and become eternally related with him in the relationship we desire. So, I mean, Krishna spending time with his wives was not actually material, though in our eyes it felt like it is material, but it was a transcendental relationship. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rohini Mataji, for explaining so nicely. Any other devotees from group 2? If not, we move to group 3. All right. Who will be the devotees from group 3?
I can take the lead, Prabhuji, but then I'll ask everyone else to join me. Okay. I think Rohini Mataji clearly explained what it is. The gist of what she has spent in the last part of her talk is what is actually mentioned in slokas 36 to 39. Okay. Sloka 36 talks about the material modes of the senses and the yoga maya it overtakes for the sexual potency. But then, as was mentioned previously, the relationship with his wives was not on that plane. The relationship with the wives of Krishna and his wife was more transcendental than it was on the material modes of material. Okay, the modes of material are so strong that even Lord Shiva could not control himself when he saw Mohini, when he saw Lord appear as Mohini in the Mohini avatar. Yeah, so that's why even the Lord himself, he's never driven by these material senses. That's why, and he's satisfied all the times. That's why he's called an Atma Rama. Yeah, because he's always, and the only way one can achieve his devotion and his what you can say mercy is through devotional service. Okay, and satisfying him through his devotion. That is what is described in 36. Okay, he did all the services. He did all the services to his queens, and the queens. Why? Because the queens also had an unalloyed service approach to the Lord. That was the major reason we have to understand. Okay, in the 37, the most important point which is discussed here is about the potency of the Lord. The potency of the Lord has been described in the first verse is sentence itself. His grace, Srila Prabhupada calls it Adbhuta. Adbhuta means extraordinary. Yes, what is extraordinary is he was simultaneously present in his 16,108 houses in different forms and satisfying all of them at the same time. That is the atmospheric force. That is the internal potency which is not there to any of the normal any other creature. Yeah, and this can only be found, and those who got this uh, what do you say, who enjoyed this feature, yes, they had a causeless mercy. Yes, and this causeless mercy is what is the key for everyone to understand. Yeah. uh, yeah, we should not look at Lord Krishna as just a material person, but it is actually everything was revolving around his transcendental features. Okay, 38 talks about uh, he explains that, like all of us are qualitatively the same. We have described it in this many times, but he is Vibhu, we are Anu. Yes, everyone agrees to this part of it. Yeah, and he's called as a Yogeshwara. Yeah? The master of mystic power. In other words, he's the all powerful one. Okay, and what is this power? The power is, when you talk about the power, is not about the material power. One should recognize is that six Goswamis of his Vrindavan, who had given up all their wealth, came there to settle down. They were totally penniless when they were in Vrindavan, but at the same time they were rich. They were rich with all the uh, what you can say is uh, which, yeah, the transcendental power of the Lord. Yeah, and the last one, 39, which actually concludes everything. Yeah, uh, the key point is that all of them thought that each one of the wife were really not understanding the full effect of what Lord Krishna is. Each one has thought them as their own property, who has given them the full satisfaction. Yeah, but if you look at this satisfaction which the Lord gave, as Rohini Mataji has mentioned, is similar to what he has given to Arjuna as a friend. Yes, to the Brajvasis, all the gopis of Brajvasis. Yes, to his subjects, all his things, to his teachers, to the mother Yashoda Mai. yeah, or to its brothers, sister Subhadra or brother Balram. All of them got what is called as the love, and this is a transcendental love, which is what is explained in this particular one. So, one should, what is it that most important takeaway? I think most important takeaway was mentioned by, not able to recollect the name, but she mentioned very clearly the last part of the paragraph. The Lord can, I will read this one, Prabhuji, if you permit me. The Lord can be known by the mercy of Lord only and no other means. But since the dealings of the Lord with his wives are based on pure transcendental love and devotion, the wives are all on the transcendental plane without material contamination. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. So nicely explained. And I know some parts of these philosophical points are not easy to grasp quickly and also having to present. So coming to the conclusion, if we have to mention in one line, what do we learn from Lord Krishna's dealings with the queens? In one line, not too long statement. And of course, all of our learnings can be different. It need not be same for everyone. What is our essence of learning from this?
It is only
Hare
of the
Krishna
fact that
Prabhuji.
One Prem Prakash Pro, yes, Prabhuji.
The learning from the three verses that we discussed, all 16,108 wives were having Lord Krishna simultaneously and separately through his energy and plenary manifestation of his personality.
So that is the learning. Okay.
Prabhuji, I feel it exhibits as a renunciation.
Okay, so
Appearance of renunciation.
Prema Priya Mataji feels that renunciation. That means
Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, one by one. Yes, Divya Rukmini Mataji.
Yeah, he is equal to anyone, and he can we can get through only through bhakti. We can get Krishna.
Only through bhakti we can understand Krishna. Thank you, Divya Rukmini Mataji. Gunashri Mataji, you had raised your hand.
Prabhuji, the dealings with Lord are not mundane, but they are all transcendental.
Yes, they are all transcendental. Maybe we'll have one or two devotees and then we conclude. Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, you were saying something?
same thing, Prabhuji. It's only on the transcendental platform, the association and the activities and all should be understood actually, Prabhu. That's what.
Thank you, Mataji. And Devika Mataji, maybe we'll conclude with Devika Mataji's learning. Yes, Mataji.
Lord reciprocates as for the devotees' love for him.
Love, yes. So Lord's personal dealings with the queens, that how he made them special, feel special, and was able to satisfy each of them. And all of you mentioned different aspects in terms of being with them as an individual, where the queen would feel that he's only with me, having each separate palace with self-sufficient facilities and everything. So although he had so many queens, not a single queen had any complaint that why does my husband have a co-wife. He never made them feel, and that only Krishna can do. And he can do not only with the queens of Dwarka, as we saw in the earlier verses, he can completely satisfy each and every devotee connected to him, different rasa. So Lord Krishna's personal way of dealing and learning for us how, as his servants, we should also be very personal in our dealings and not treat any devotee, even if he or she comes from a very simple, humble background. We should make sure that as a dear servant of the Lord, each one is special. Like Krishna treats all of his devotees as very special, we should also treat each and every devotee as very special servant of the Lord. And be as much as possible personal. As Srila Prabhupada example also we saw for many devotees. Devika Mataji, yes Mataji.
Prabhu, God was equal to all his wives and queens, but still Satyabhama and Rukmini used to have a competition. No?
Yeah,
Why was that?
So that was a transcendental competition just to share that mellow rasa. And to be honest, even within that, mainly Satyabhama. Rukmini never competed, to be honest. She was very happy with whatever Lord gave her the position as. And even the dealings with Satyabhama is a rasa mellow basically. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So thank you all very much, Prabhuji's, Mataji. Yes.
One more hand is raised, Prabhuji.
Okay. Mangalamai Sri Prada Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. His marital life is richly woven into the tapestry of Hindu mythology and devotion.
Yes, Mataji. That it is not important that how great we are or whatever. What is important is how nicely we are taking care of each and every living entity who Krishna has brought in our life, as in order to help them go closer to Krishna.
Lord Krishna is perfection in every relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we cannot be as perfect like him, but we can definitely learn that mood that Lord Krishna has to deal personally with each and every living entity and make them feel special. So thank you all
Prabhuji,
very much.
It was possible for Krishna because he was able to pluck out and switch on. That he had that special capacity. Otherwise, all could not have been pleased at the same time. Could not have been pleased at the same time.
Correct. So while we definitely admit our limitations, but that mood is important, that whoever are given in our care, our service, we do try to deal with them in a personal manner. The way Krishna made all the queens feel special.
So, Prabhuji, one last question. Have we concluded this chapter now, or are we going to discuss it again
I
next?
wanted to ask all of you that probably I think maybe I will cover 2-3 slides, Prabhuji, the way I did for earlier sections, learnings, I made the slides. For this section as well, I will make a slide for the learning so that we don't rush through this. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Exam
Thank you
of
all.
this, Prabhuji? When is the exam of this one?
At least it won't be next weekend, that much for sure. So we'll take some time.
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, what is about chapter 1 to 9? You want to conduct a unit to open book exam, no?
Yes, Mataji.
Any
Let me
update?
share a sample. See, to be honest, I am ready with the questions. I will have to write answers for one of the questions and then share it with you. That is what is stuck.
No
So
problem.
let me hang on. Let me stop